Back at Radio Row, New Orleans, Super Bowl 59. There is a game, by the way, coming up on Sunday between the Chiefs and the Eagles. We sometimes forget about that because of this madness of NFL Radio Row. Paul Catalina, David Smoke, former Florida State star Pat Carter, NFL. Came by yesterday with Tony White, one of my great friends ever in the communications business. And you got a book out. And, oh, by the way, I told you we had some random guy that's a Florida State alum.
Hey, he's right there.
Yeah, there you go.
Man, JT on there.
He's top shelf.
4-year starter.
Yes, sir.
And so in your history with Florida State, the run to where they got to be,
yes,
the dominance, the great rivalry with Miami and Florida, give us a little idea about your book.
Well, this book, it touches on that. It talks about falling short to Miami, but some of the friends I made, Melvin Bratton, but it doesn't stop there. It carries over into the NFL. Talks about me getting drafted by the Lions, then eventually being traded to the Rams, and then it talks about my free agency going to Houston. But it's all done through poems, and there are life lessons that happen along the way, and people will be able to grasp some of the lessons that I experienced.
You got to play for, obviously I'm a little bit biased, but and I'm sure you are too.
Yes.
But not just one of the great coaches, but one of the great human beings to ever be in football.
Yes.
In Bobby Bowden. I need to know, because I ask everybody this, what was your Bowden recruiting story? Did he do the dishes? That was kind of his move.
No, when I tell you this story, this will tell you Bobby Bowden. Bobby Bowden came up with a rule my 5th year, my senior year. I was a 4-year senior. 5th-year seniors didn't have to practice spring football. Now, I'm letting you know I'm hot because I played more than all of those guys. So I set up a meeting to go in to Coach Bowden, and because I wanted to get this fixed. It's not right. I'll be honest with you guys, I still don't know what he told me, but I remember standing outside of that meeting room ready to practice spring football. I'm just telling you, that's Coach Bowden in a nutshell, man.
Yeah.
He's smooth dude.
Yeah.
You guys were the first team that started the streak.
Yes.
Your senior year.
Yes, sir.
And I'm just going through that roster. Brad Johnson won a Super Bowl.
That's
and
correct.
He wasn't even the starter yet. Casey Weldon won a bunch of games.
That's right.
Yeah.
Leroy Butler's on there.
Leroy Butler.
Yeah,
Edgar Bennett.
That's correct.
Lawrence Dawsey.
Yeah.
Man, you guys had some dudes on the team. Odell.
Yes.
That was Odell.
Yeah. I mean, we just obviously, the coaches assembled a great amount of talent, and they were able to push this talent together and make it a winner on the field. And some of those guys are still my buddies to this day, and that's the beautiful thing about college.
Odell is now moving kind of an off-the-field role.
That's correct.
Yeah, which I think is going to be great.
Yes, I'm happy for him.
There's no better ambassador for the university than him.
I would agree.
Higgins,
I always used to tell when they were making the coaching changes, I always would say, Odell comes with the furniture. So,
Every program has one or two of those guys, right? They do.
Yes.
Well, what was it like a year ago or so when Florida State ran the table and didn't get in the playoff? And of course, Jordan Travis was hurt, and that was a deadly injury too. But as an FSU alum, and they've won national titles, of course, now.
Yes.
But what was that like?
I don't think it was fair. I mean, overall, I would understand because we didn't have our best quarterback, so I could understand why they excluded us. I just didn't think in the sense of fairness that we were treated properly. But it happens.
Yeah.
And and I'll be honest with you, they were going to pick Alabama over us. Let's be honest. Alabama's a popular school, so I think that's how we got jobbed, I'd call it.
You also played with Deion Sanders.
No, sir. I have a poem in my first book called All-American Poet, and the name of that poem is He Played With Me. Because that is often misconstrued.
Yeah.
And no, I was there. I was already starting when he arrived on campus.
What was he like when he arrived on campus?
He was a flashy, cocky little dude, but when we got because we started playing basketball, you could see that he was a phenomenal athlete because he could play basketball, and he was a baseball player. But he was a really cool guy. I mean, I ain't got nothing, because me and him been cool. I mean, he and I used to play Atari together. I was my Atari buddy. Yeah, I was my Atari buddy.
I've heard some stories about, because I used to work in intramurals when I was there.
All right. Oh, yeah.
So I used to work in intramurals.
Yeah.
When I started, Coach Bowden had finally dropped the hammer on, you can only play intramural softball. That was the only thing you would let them play.
Oh, they changed that?
Because of the basketball teams that you guys had.
Oh, right.
And literally, it's in the manual of they show a picture. It's you and Leroy Butler and all these good, there were 3 teams that essentially rotated. And they're you can't do it because the frats are getting destroyed.
That's correct.
And then somebody would break a finger or something like that, and he would go, "How?" And they're like, "Oh, well, I was dunking." And he's like, "Why are you dunking a basketball?" And then he couldn't do spring football because it was right after football season.
That's true. That's true.
How were those intramural basketball teams?
And it was really intense because, I mean, we had some I'm talking about phenomenal football players that played basketball. Yeah. Hassan Jones, he was a receiver. He played in the NFL a few years. He could have been on the basketball team. But we had you guys remember Jamie Dukes? He was offensive lineman.
Yeah.
He became a talk show host in Atlanta.
Yeah, he was doing some talk shows as well. But you see him as a big, heavy-set guy, but he's out there leading the point. He's a point guard handling it. I'm just telling you, you'd have to see it to understand what I'm talking about.
I grew up Nebraska fan. Florida State, Nebraska had some good
big
ones.
Rivalries. Big.
And Florida State, when Bowden took over, they would go play anyone on the road.
That's
Notre Dame, go to Norman, go to Lincoln, go to wherever, because they had to. They had to be. That was the way to kind of get players.
Program.
Yeah. What was kind of that moment where you were able to have some of the fruits of the labor off of that.
Right, I did.
But they had to go do that because they really were coming out of darkness.
That's correct. They were. Now, I'm glad you mentioned the Nebraska because I wanted to share this story. The Nebraska fans are the most awesomest fans I've ever, in my 4 years of college. We go there, I think it was 85, and we played them. I mean, it was hot on the field. I do remember that, it was hot. But the one thing I remember about that game, we won the game, but I've never been to a stadium where the opposing fans stood and clapped for us. And I'll never forget that.
I have a theory about that.
Okay.
Back then, they were always happy because they won 10-11. They kind of had the great run, but they're not as happy now lately. But I think that's still happened. Mac Brown mentioned that in 1998. Ricky Williams, the year he won the Heisman, they went to Lincoln, snapped a 47-game win streak there, and as they were leaving the field, they all got up and gave Texas a standing ovation.
Oh, wow. But I think we can beat Mac Brown because we did it in 85.
You guys did it. But the schedule they played and who they won, they didn't win all of them, but they had to do that to get the attention.
Coach Bowden kind of considered himself a road warrior. As a matter of fact, we have it's called a cemetery, sod cemetery, where if we go on the road, if we go on the road and we were underdogs and win, we'd take the sod back with us and put it in the cemetery, in the sod cemetery.
I bet that baby was full.
It's a few names in there. It's a few names in there.
Look, I go and light a candle by the sod cemetery on there. Those are some great times. You also were part of the Punt Rooski game?
No, sir.
You were.
I was in the NFL.
You were in the NFL then?
Yes.
But was the Punt Rooski game? Do you think that Clemson win that next year, that kind of maybe spurred them on because Clemson was number 3?
Yeah, but you remember now they lost to Miami that opening game.
Yeah.
Miami got smashed. I was embarrassed. I really was embarrassed. I was happy that they won that game, and obviously they finished strong because I remember I think it was Auburn or somebody they beat in a bowl game. Yeah. But Coach Bowden built that team, built that program, and I was just I'm really happy and thankful to have been a part of that. Well, really.
When did you start? When did poetry become part of your life? It It is. A lot of people can write. A lot of people can write, and it's a hard thing to do anyway. Poetry is its own thing.
It is.
It's something that it kind of has to live in you before you know it. It's there, right?
And absolutely. And it's funny. I've been getting this question a lot, and I realized I wrote a poem about 20 years ago, and I was supposed to recite it, and I got up to recite it, but I didn't take it with me. I tried to remember it, and I didn't memorize it, and I fumbled it. So I kind of stayed away from poetry for a little while, and then maybe in the last 10 years, I might write a poem and post it on my Facebook page, and man, I didn't realize I had a gift until the response and the feedback I was getting.
This is maybe me not being educated enough about poetry, whatever. How long is too long of a poem? How long is there a standard length?
Well, no, because they're different ways. All my poems rhyme. Some other people don't rhyme with their poems.
Right.
And it's a feel, because for me, when I'm writing, and it's just once it's flowing, and once the flow's, it's like a faucet. It turns off. I guess this is where it ends. It ends. You know? Yeah.
Yeah. That's unbelievable. You also, when you coached in the NFL, you coached with Rod Marinelli.
Correct.
And we got to know Rod Marinelli when he was with the Cowboys.
Great man.
I don't know if I've ever met a coach who played, like, if he said you need to these hot coals, broken glass, a brick wall. Charles Tillman told us he would jump off a building if Rod Marinelli said that was going to help you win.
And I would agree with you. And to be on his staff, I'm so thankful he gave me an opportunity to coach with him in Detroit. But the unfortunate thing is, his philosophy was awesome. We just didn't have the players to perform it.
Yeah.
And that was the unfortunate thing, because I felt so bad, like he deserved to have this nod. He just didn't have the players that could support his dream or his ideals. On that team, though, was the head coach now for the Lions, Dan Campbell.
Yeah.
I was his position coach.
Oh, yeah.
And let me tell you about this guy. Incredible dude, hard worker. But the one thing I'll never forget about Dan actually played in a couple games with one arm. And I think that is you go back and look at that. He had I think it was his tricep, if I remember right. It's been a minute. But I knew he was out there with one arm battling. And I mean holding his arm. I mean catching passes with one arm. Still one of the most amazing things I've ever seen.
His intensity is unbelievable. He got smoked by Washington, which was shocking. But you see that intensity when you see him on the sideline. That's the guy you remember as a player.
That's correct. He stepped from the player into the coach. Yeah, ideal. He's ideal for the position.
Some people do that stuff, and you can tell it's phony.
That's
right?
correct.
You can tell it's phony.
That's correct. But you can also tell the ones that care.
Yeah.
And he is one of those.
You know what's funny is his first press conference, and he's from Clifton, Texas, so it's right right near where we are. So everybody I knew that knew Dan Campbell, like when he had that first press conference, and everybody's kind of making fun of him, and they're like, "Oh, I was like, no.
Yeah, they did.
This guy lives this.
Those same people now that made those kneecap jokes.
Oh, they're all they would take Dan Campbell as the head coach of their team in 2 seconds.
Thank you.
Boom.
Thank you.
Yeah, we want to let's bite some kneecaps in our city.
That's correct.
Yeah.
That's correct. You got it. You got it.
Bad dude.
Yes, sir. Bad dude. That was me in high school. Yeah, I talk about myself a little bit in high school because we didn't throw the ball, but had we thrown the ball, we could have probably been more productive. I only had 11 catches in high school, but I averaged 27 yards a catch.
That's pretty good.
Dude.
Yeah, that's a bad dude.
That's a bad dude.
So Sarasota Riverview,
that's
right?
correct.
I'm from Fort Myers. So
sorry to hear that.
Yeah.
No, okay.
I went to Bishopville High School, a little Catholic high school.
I know that. Booker High School used to be our rivalry back then. Sarasota Booker.
Yeah.
So I remember.
Cardinal Mooney was our big rivalry.
That's
Cardinal Mooney was. But Sarasota Bradenton, some of the best players in the history of college football have come out of there. Peter Warwick came out of
you Southeast. You mean Southeast?
Southeast,
yeah.
But Tommy Frazier came out of there.
Oh, that's Manatee. Yeah. You're talking about Bradenton. You're right. I'm sorry.
But Sarasota, Bradenton,
the area. You're talking about. Phenomenal talent. Yes.
You know.
But I could go back older than me. Jimmy Dubose. I think he still has some of the Florida Gator running back records. Then there was another guy, Tony Green. He played. He was I know he made the Pro Bowl as rookie as a kick returner for the Redskins. Barry Redding was a first-round pick for the Rams. That's obviously the following year they brought in Dickerson. They moved Barry to fullback. You know, but talent is a talent laid in place. Yes,
are the poems that you wrote in this book?
Yes,
or
sir.
You mentioned personal experiences. Is this like you met Michael Jordan?
Yes.
Terry Crews.
Yeah, Terry Crews, and you see that's Terry Crews there, and that's me.
Yep.
I'm 88 right there. That's me.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah, it's been a heck of God has been good to me. He's given me a wonderful life.
Terry Crews is tiny by his current standard in that picture.
Now he is, but man, let me tell you about him, man. He used to blow up practice. I hated him because I was usually the recipient of him blowing up the practice. But I never was mad with him because he was a young fella playing hard, trying to find his way. You know, so I knew he wasn't being malicious with it.
Yeah.
It's amazing. Larry Centers was a great friend of mine.
That's my boy. That's my man.
From Tatum, Texas.
That's correct.
Stephen F. Austin, where I went to school.
That's correct. I drove up there and visited him one time. I used to live in Houston. I drove up and visited.
Yeah, this is awesome. All right, it's called The 4-Year Starter. Wendell, Patrick, Carter, Curry Brothers, is that right?
That's the publishers, yes.
This is kind of an old school hardback, which I love that.
Okay.
It doesn't. Well, the reason it kind of folds or whatever. This is you put it in the whatever the shelf and it's there forever.
That's correct.
You can't get rid of this book.
But now,
this
is my original one.
All-American Poet.
That's correct. That talks about my days at Florida State University.
Yep. This is awesome.
Yeah.
It's great. And how did you get to know Tony?
L.A. Rams.
Okay, yeah.
Rick Smith.
Yep. Rick Smith was one of the best.
Is the best.
Yeah, Rick Smith was. I'll never forget. They used to have a commissioner's party, and I mean it was spectacular. And I don't know if they just do it, but they don't let anyone know about it. But it was lavish. And I remember every year I'd ask for a couple of passes to the commissioner's party. And one time Rick finally said, "I think you've had too many years you've been to the commissioner." We went back and forth. I should have told him I know Tony.
Right.
But man, that was an unbelievable night. Usually Friday night, it was always, like going to the Academy Awards or something like that.
Right.
Yeah, I love your energy, buddy.
Thank you.
Don't ever lose that energy.
Thank you.
I love it. I know he's happy. Florida
I'm
State.
thrilled.
Yes.
I'm thrilled.
Yeah. Thank you guys for having me.
Pat Carter with us. Again, the book, 4-Year Starter, and also All-American Poet. This is 365 Sports at Super Bowl Radio Row 59.